Okay, welcome everyone to our first study group. Really excited to be kicking it off. And as we come into the space today, let's just begin to take a couple of gentle movements and bring their shoulders up and around. Breathing in deeply through the nose. Now switching the position, maybe we take gentle movements with the neck, whatever feels good to you to bring you into your space at this moment. And slowly come back into a neutral position. Begin to sit up tall, lengthening the spine up through the crown of the head. And it feels comfortable, take a gentle gaze with your eyes or close them completely. And begin to observe your breath. And just notice how it feels today at this very moment. Perhaps it's deep and rich, or shallow and light. No judgments. Now bring awareness to the base of your nostrils, right where the breath enters. As you inhale, notice the sensation of the breath entering and exiting. Notice the texture. Notice the temperature. Now bring the awareness a little bit deeper. And as you inhale, feel the breath swirl through the nostrils, into the throat, and down into the lungs. Notice how the lungs expand on the inhale and condense on the exhale. Take a few breaths here, witnessing the expansion and the contraction of the lungs. On the next inhale, and your lungs expand, imagine that oxygen washes from your lungs and into your bloodstream. Witness the oxygen making its way into all of the organs, the tissues, and every cell in your body. Imagine every cell expanding and condensing. With each breath, feel the oxygen cleansing, replenishing, and each exhale washes out the toxins, releasing what no longer serves you. And just stay with these pure sensations and images, allowing the breath to wash through you, nourishing your cells, your tissues, your organs. When you are ready, slowly open your eyes and rejoin us for the group.
Thank you so much, Claire. I believe that the participant that was supposed to start with the coaching structure 1.1 and 1.2 isn't going to be able to present tonight. Is that correct, Casey? You're muted.
Casey, you're muted.
Yeah, I believe that's true. I talked to, and she picked a different date.
Okay. So I graciously volunteer to just step in. So it's not going to be as detailed as I would like for it to go, but I'm going to try to go big picture, little picture, see if you guys can get the most out of it that I've kind of got going. So before we begin, does everybody know what we're talking about when we're saying that we're going to go over the competencies? We're talking about the coaching structure information from the national board. about the Appendix A, Health and Wellness Coach Competencies. And we're starting with 1.1, and I think we're going to get through, I think all of 1 today, correct? That sound right?
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
okay, great.
I was talking before and sorry, I was answering you, but I was muted. Claire made me aware of it. And thank you so much, Claire, for that beautiful grounding. And thank you so much, Sherry, for this tonight.
You're welcome. So hopefully I've got information that can help you guys. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to state what the coaching, I'm going to state what the competency is. I'm going to read it, and then I'm going to go into the details. And if anybody has anything to add, I would love to add it. I would love for all of us to be able to participate so that we can get the most out of this, because we all come from different backgrounds and we all know different information. So the little things that we tell each other can help us whenever we take the test. We can remember that. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay. I'm just going to go this way. Can everybody see my screen okay? If you guys can give me a thumbs up, because I can't see your pretty faces now. Okay, thank you. Okay, so first thing we're going to talk about is the coaching structure, which is 17 to 23% of the exam. So I just round this off and say you got about 20% of your exam is here. Why is this important? This is essentially your order of operation. From doing practice tests, what I have personally seen is you're going to get questions and they're going to say, which is this should you do next? And if you don't know what the coaching structure is, you're probably going to get that question wrong. So that's why it's important. We have to know why it's important. We have to know how does it benefit the client? And these are questions that this is what I have found when doing practice tests. And what are the benefits and disadvantages of doing this? So we're going to go from there. And let's see. There we go. Okay, first, the coaching structure. We've got coach preparation prior to session is 1.1. 1.2 is the first session or before. 1.3 is early sessions, which is typically 1.1 to 2 or earlier sessions. And this is based on the book. 1.4 is routing ongoing sessions. And 1.5 is coaching template termination. So, sample questions. So here we go. And please unmute yourself to be able to answer any questions. So the first thing I've got is, what is the most important moment of a coaching session? Is it A, to have a beginner's mind? B, asking how the client is doing in this moment? C, setting a vision? D, setting a SMART goal? Or E, is it before the coaching session begins? You guys can put it in chat. You can speak it out.
E.
We do have a lot of E's. So the answer is E. CPM, which is the Coaching Psychology Manual, states on page 156, the most important moment of a coaching session is arguably the minute right before it starts. There's another sample question on what I'm going to go over today. A client reveals that they're having a hard time concentrating today because it's the anniversary of their spouse's death. Your spouse died about 5 years ago, and this triggers personal thoughts and emotions for you. Your next step as a coach, you should A, empathize with the client and let them know you are a widow as well. B, acknowledge the client's loss and let them know that you too have lost a spouse, and this topic is a little too much for you at this moment. C, acknowledge the client's loss, notice your feelings, and set them aside for later. Or D, ask the client what is something good that has happened today. Okay.
C.
So we do have mostly C's, and our answer is C. We're to acknowledge the client's loss, notice your feelings, and set them aside for later. So in the coaching psychology manual, page 35, it says when clients trigger an emotional response for the coach, a mindful coach will notice these feelings and gently set them aside to stay focused wholly on the client. After coaching session, the coach can then examine those feelings alone or with the mentor. Coaches must silence the voices in their own heads so they can actively pay attention to the voices of the clients. And that's the quote of listen until I do not exist, because it's not about us. So we're going to begin with 1.1, which is coach preparation prior to the session. So the overview, and I kind of highlighted a couple of things so we can talk about them. Prior to coaching session, the coach reviews materials, eliminates distractions, and takes time to become mindful and present. The coach's state helps the client become calm and receptive, which fosters self-awareness and self-discovery. So the answer is pretty much right here on the screen. If you were to have a question, why is it important for the coach to review material or eliminate distraction or to take time to become mindful and present? It's so that they help their clients become calm and receptive. It's to help them foster self-awareness and self-discovery. So the competencies with these, there's 3 of them. We've got, I just like to say the first one is coaches calm, present, emotionally available. The second one is review available client materials. The third one is logistics, meeting time or meeting location, conference call, arrangements, etc. Does anybody have questions so far? You do, just unmute and talk. Okay. So why do we review materials? Why do we eliminate distractions? Why do we take the time to become mindful? The answer is right there. Okay. Being attentive to the nurturing of the relationship at every opportunity. I may have these out of order, so I'm just going to go over this. Coach is contagious. So when you come into a coaching session, if you have confidence, that confidence is contagious to the client. So it gives them confidence as well. What is appreciated appreciates. So the more the coach can focus on what the client wants rather than what they don't want, the more energy and ideas clients will have to move forward. To listen to the client's needs. The more the coach sets aside his or her own agenda in favor of listening for the client's agenda, the more the clients will discover about themselves and create new perspectives, possibilities, and learnings. To tell the truth, the more a coach helps clients reveal themselves to themselves through empathy, authenticity, and honesty, the clients will make progress more quickly. The coach can use courage and kindness to notice and reflect discrepancies between goals and behaviors and to note downward thought patterns or downward spiral thinking. To trust intuition. The more deeply the coach listens to his or her intuition during the coaching conversation, the more deeply clients will connect with their own intuition. This helps lead to the intuitive dance or the generative moment of coaching. Self-discovery. Self-discovery can tie into self-determination. The client's ability to reach his or her highest level of motivation, engagement, performance, persistence, and creativity. So with self-discovery, we have to keep in mind the self-determination theory, which the 3 core principles behind that is competency, competence, autonomy, and relatedness. The competence is the need to feel competent, having confidence, and being effective. The autonomy is not to be controlled or told what to do. We want to make sure the client has full ability to do that. And also the relatedness, having social support and connection that are autonomy supporting. So let me let a couple of people into the room. Sorry about that.
Carrie, can I, will you let Stacy and Randy, R-A-N-D-E-E, and Stacy are trying to get in.
Just got him in. Thank you.
Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
No, please. I'd rather somebody do that than sit there for 40 minutes and do their laundry.
I have a question.
Yes.
When I see the word autonomy from the self-determination theory, I
Yes.
think about sponsors, and I think about how at least in my former corporate environments, which is an intermingle of military and government, that sponsors tend to tell you what to do. And I know as coaches, we verbally say that we have a client as our first priority, and that we are to look in, to make sure that our client has a safe space. But how is it navigated or managed between a sponsor that has a strong model for being concerned about their, let's say it might be a manager's productivity, and us as a coach when it
So-
comes to.
Thank you for that question. And I'm going to pull it back and just define the word sponsor within a coaching relationship. And a sponsor within a coaching relationship is actually the person that is paying for the sessions or for the program. So they are not actually the clients. So the client is typically the sponsor. In coaching, if you have a sponsor, that's the person that's paying for the person. The sponsor, we have to have we've got to abide by HIPAA. So anything that the client says, none of that information goes to the sponsor. So if the sponsor needs to know any information, because it could be an employee and they could be coming to us, talking to us about a difficult situation at work with their manager, and we're not to relay that information to the boss whatsoever. So that information, if anything's to be told, it's supposed to be in our terms of agreement, with one that specifically explains what the coach's responsibility is, what the sponsor's responsibility is, and all the sponsor's responsibility is actually for the payment. And then the client's information in which is the coachee, and the coachee may have some responsibility with the payer or the sponsor to make sure that they attend the meetings or reschedule the meetings so that they don't get charged and not come. But other than that, because of confidentiality, we cannot reveal any information. If the coachee wants the sponsor to participate, they have to first get permission, because that can break out the agreement, because the agreement could be a one-on-one agreement. And when you bring in a third person, that turns that into a group session. So does that answer your question?
It does answer my question, but I can't help but think of a practical scenario where there's a strong arm sponsor that hires you to help. I know this is a health coaching,
Yes.
and I maybe a little bit of overlapping in my brain is International Coaching Federation, where you're doing executive coaching, but still, it's the whole person. And yeah, HIPAA is obvious because that's medical or that's kind of personal things, but then there's also the performance piece that kind of may have overlap. And I guess what I'm seeking is, how do I protect myself, other than saying, or not even just saying, other than what's written, or looking for what's written, saying that all I can give you information is that they attended. Is that realistic? Has anybody had any other experiences of being asked more than just whether they attended?
So I personally have had, my first two clients were sponsored. And the first one was someone I didn't anticipate getting, which was someone that was 18 years old. And it was their parents that was their sponsor. So there was a lot of information that was private and given. And the parents never really checked in. And I did let them know beforehand that, she did notify me, hey, I apologize. My daughter said that she's rescheduled. I don't think that that was appropriate, blah, blah, blah. And I let them know it's okay. She and I have worked that out. Thank you for your concern. We've got this covered. Other than that, I do have in there that the client themselves are free to share the notes with the sponsor or anyone that they want. But I, as the coach, will not send it to a sponsor. So there are agreements where you could send that to it, but in all of my agreements, I have it so that I don't even send notes. So does anybody else have anything?
I have with I'm an RN who's also a coach for our healthcare system. And some of the clients that I get sent, and I don't do coaching for them anymore, but when I did, they would want specific measurements. So this is their blood pressure now. We want to see what their blood pressure is 6 months from now after coaching. It was a difficult one because it's client controlled what direction they want to go. So I almost pushed back on the healthcare system I worked for. And I said, I'm not going to have predetermined goals or outcome goals as a system. If that's something you want to do, you have access to the patient's record. You can do before and after, but the patient or the client is deciding the goals that we go towards. And they accepted that. So I just actually had to push back and say, I'm not predetermining goals for the clients. That's not how I function as a coach. I don't know if that helps or not. I had to set up the agreement with them that way.
That helps in terms of flexibility, and that helps in terms of practical conditions. Thank you.
One thing that I do to protect confidentiality, I never use the client's name. I have them pick a number or something else random, and then I keep my key locked up of who's number 7, and it'll never say their name on there, just says number 7. And I just write down key points. Like if I'm going to keep them accountable, remember to ask them something. I don't write a whole diatribe. And I'm an ICF coach as well. And they recommended when you're done with your coaching, shred the notes, because 5 or 6 years down the road, maybe they get into some mischief. You could be called into court. Get rid of it. If you have completed your coaching, you don't need to hang on to those papers and just scribbles and notes to yourself. So if you don't have to take really detailed notes, nursing and blood pressure and stuff you do, but I try to just take very general notes and give my client a number.
I use a magnet tablet that I write on, and when I finish with the session and gather the information I need to have, then I press the button and it erases everything.
Does anybody else have any information on sponsor that you want to bring up now? Okay, 1.1.1, coach is calm, present, and emotionally available. CPM page 28. The best predictor of client success is the quality of the coach-client relationship. The second most important factor of the client success is the coach's characteristic of being empathetic, inspiring confidence, appearing competent, her own positive mental health, and the ability of a coach to operate from the client's value system. So, this is coming from a book that I do not have, but I pulled this from another source. Thought I'd add it to my notes. The coach role, the foundation for coaching may begin with an assessment phase. Being fully present during the assessment phase helps with establishing and cultivating a relationship. During this phase, the coach helps the client assess readiness and or available resources for change. Coach competencies here are becoming fully present to self and client prior to collecting data pertinent to the coaching interaction. And 2, co-create a relationship between the coach, the client that promotes trust and intimacy. So coaching and the reflective practice. Coaching is a reflective practice where the coach engages in self-reflection and the process of learning in the moment. Reflection includes thinking about practice. For example, reflecting on an experience from the past event or a real-time event and how the situation may be reframed to decide the best response. Coach will engage in bearing witness to the client's story in real time. This requires being present and deep listening to understand what the client is expressing or not expressing. This experience, in which the conventional division of self and ego is transcended by a sense of unity and a willingness to be free of fixed ideas. No, we come with nothing in our head. We just listen to their story and we don't make judgment, right? Also, out of that book, we've got presence and meaning. Presence and caring, compassion are essential for genuine empathy. A coach that is present believes in each person's inherent wholeness, whatever the current situation. It requires approaching the situation with respect and relating to it in a way that reflects quality of being with and in collaboration with the client. Meaning. So the meaning explores the life's meaning and purpose. Questions we may ask ourselves. What do you tell yourself about your state of health? What is your health excellent, good, fair, or poor? These questions are a way of asking what our health means to us. Paying attention to meaning in our lives allows us to be more effective. Don't know why I keep scrolling. Paying attention to meaning in our lives allow us to be more effective with others as we coach them in searching the meaning in their lives. Only when meaning is found can we experience becoming a parent. I can't say that word, experience. All right. Now, of course, it won't change. There we go. Okay, so one strategy for promoting mindfulness. Now, this is to the Coaching Psychology Manual, page 32 to 35. One strategy for promoting mindfulness is to ensure that a coach's working space has minimal distractions. Low foot traffic, noise, phone, computer alerts that could interfere with one's ability to remain present and focused. Relaxation and reminder techniques can assist you in leaving your thoughts and concerns, at the door in order to focus entirely on the clients. Set your intention to pay attention is a great refrain to use prior to each coaching session. The slides aren't perfect, guys. To give clients an experience of mindfulness during a coaching session, coaches may want to include mindfulness exercises. They may also choose to guide clients to discover an object with the beginner's mind. By increasing mindfulness during coaching sessions, clients learn to increase mindfulness in their daily experiences. They naturally grow to pay more attention, not only to the food, but also to many dynamics of health, wellness, and life. These are direct quotes directly out of the CPM book. Also, mindfulness is now considered a health promoting intervention that enhances the coaching process. When beginning a session, mindfulness can help the client and the coach break away from autopilot, paying attention to the external environments, thoughts of work, feelings, behaviors that we experience around and within each of us. Within us, teaching mindfulness skills can transfer to other aspects of life, such as rushing through meals or mindless eating. They will naturally learn to pay more attention to the dynamics in health and of their health and wellness. Because it's important to be mindful in the everyday moments of our lives, coaches may want to offer advice to clients on how they can elevate mindfulness between coaching sessions. So this is actually in the book for us to provide advice on how they can bring in their own mindfulness. And those are asking questions to themselves like, where am I? What is my body position? What's going on around me? Am I really hungry? What does the food look, smell, feel, and taste like? What am I thinking about? What am I feeling? What do I really want to eat? How can I enhance my experience of eating? Those are just examples. Coaches that practice mindfulness can enhance their ability to relax and leaving other thoughts and concerns at the door in order to fully focus on the current clients. Set your intention to pay attention. Again, that's repeated. Take a few deep breaths. Close your eyes for 5 seconds. Be aware of your breathing and say to yourself, I'm grateful for this opportunity to connect and make a difference. I love personally the MI prayer that's in all the MI books. I think that's fantastic. Something else that's very important about being mindful is you have to be authentic. Authenticity is not only the best policy, it's the only policy when it comes to coaching. Clients and coaches alike should agree to share what is there with courage, because honest communication leads to learning and growth. Coaches should never be or sound critical or judgmental. Coaches are called to share thoughts, feelings, and intuitions with compassion, empathy, and care. A trusting and meaningful coaching relationship is built through authentic inquiries and reflections. So there are 3 core coaching skills dealing with mindfulness. There's mindfulness listening, which is the most important of the coaching skills. It builds trust and rapport with the client. It improves the quality of the conversation between the coach and the client. When the coaches are distracted, whether physically, intellectually, emotionally, or spiritually, the coaching relationship suffers. Listening that brings full, non-judgmental awareness of what someone is saying in the present moment is the hallmark of great coaching. Clients can tell when coaches aren't 100% present. So if a coach fails to pay their full attention, to pay it their full attention, their energy becomes less focused and engaging. Paying attention is about more than just listening or looking at the clients. It is a non-judgmental, this is pretty much the definition out of the book. It is a non-judgmental awareness of what is happening in the present moment. So more than often, clients are not fully aware of and awake to what they are and are doing. Everyone has the ability to be mindful. So no, every one of your clients can be mindful. Mindful listening involves listening for the meaningful whole, missing the W there, including diverse elements as the client's best experience, core values, significant moments, feelings, current challenges, and future dreams. Master coaches listen to the words and to the truth behind the words. It's important not only to listen to the facts, the cognitive listening, but also to the feelings and needs behind the fact, the effective listening. Moods, emotions, tones, energy, body language, hesitations, and pacing provide important clues. Listening for trends and repeated patterns can lead to important insights. So tips for mindful listening that are included in the CPM book are: do not think about what you're going to say next until your client has spoken the last of his or her own thoughts. Pause after your client has spoken. Weave the client's last words into your next step. Listen for emotions as well as facts. Do not interrupt, except in a rare moment when your client wanders off track. Use the WAIT acronym, why am I talking? Or listen until I don't exist. So if something's in the back of your head, you just need to pay attention to what's going on in the moment. Mirror what the client has said to confirm you understand. Mindfulness is a critical skill. The more coaches are aware of their inner experience, the less that they will allow their own experiences, feelings, opinions, and worries to get in the way of being present in the moment. And this was the quote we talked about earlier. If they are triggered, then they need to put that aside for after. Confidentiality is crucial. This brings up the question that Dr. G brought up, and that is clients need to know that the information that they share with their coaches will not be shared with others. A coach should make this clear both orally and in writing. Some clients may initially be intimidated or uncomfortable about personal disclosure. It's up to the coach to create a safe space by establishing a policy of confidentiality from the beginning. Is there any questions on that? So another part of the mindfulness is allowing open-ended inquiry. Mindfulness is not closed-ended questions. It is open-ended inquiry. So when you're mindful and fully present, you should ask more open-ended questions. They typically come in the form of what and how questions to encourage storytelling. So the Bark book has, something just changed. Nope, nobody. Oh, somebody's got their hand up. I'm gonna go ahead.
Hi, I'm Stacy. I'm just really curious. I did the precision nutrition coaching program leading up to this,
Yes.
and this was not one of our books of study. Really, like the Changing to Thrive book was more or less the one that was definitely encouraged for us to read. So obviously things are somewhat different, but I'm just curious as with everybody's experience, should we be going off of what our program taught us, or are we more specifically going off of these books that have been mentioned for studying for the test specifically? Does anybody know? I'm sorry, that's...
No, that was a fantastic question, Stacy, because it's one that I had, because before I started the program for me to take the test, I found out that, oh, by the way, these weren't required, but if you want to take the national board exam, you need to buy these books. And there was a list of 4 or 5. So I'm going to let Coach Jennifer answer this question.
Yes,
Okay.
my program was a year at Duke, and I was blown away at all the stuff I did not know. What are you talking about? Hands down, these 3 books are going to be your go-to. And when you're studying, you can go to maybe the Bark, some of the other books. It's kind of a supplement to kind of reinforce some of the things you learn, but these 3 core books that we have, everything, there's all the competencies. You can find everything in those 3 books. So you can kind of narrow it down, break up your chapters, or look at the competency and find the page it's on, whatever kind of learner you are. And I will tell you, Changing to Thrive
Mhm.
is also on Audible, so you can listen to it, which is good.
I just downloaded it actually. Yes, that was a helpful tip in one of the videos I saw last. So it's Changing to Thrive. It's the psychology coaching manual. And then what is the third one?
The motivational interviewing, but don't get the new one. Get 3rd edition. The third
Third
edition.
The purple
Is-
one.
Yes, then there's
Okay.
a brand new one that just came out, and it's all fancy, but some stuff has changed and it's not reflecting on the test. The test is staying with that book, so don't get the new one. I mean,
So-
don't get, don't study that one. A couple critical things have changed in there, and I don't want you to miss those on the exam. I think it's a really good book for the long term. Yeah.
So the 3rd edition is the Helping People Change. The 4th edition is Helping People Change and Grow. And
Oh,
I'm going to let Dr. G bring up her information now.
Okay.
She can unmute.
Thanks so much.
Oh, okay. I wanted to share this, what I did with maybe other people it could resonate. I am a visual and audio learner, and I can get the books, but then I also can get sidetracked and a little OCD on just diving into the books. So what I did is I dived into the Facebook, and the Facebook did such a great job with everybody's presentations on all these different pages and quotes, just like what you're doing right now, Cherie. There's so much of this written material from these books that are specifically zoning me into what I need to learn, that I basically gathered all of that information and broke it down into each section, each competency, and have the PDF version. And I'm learning from everyone speaking from the materials that I gathered from all the other presentations. So if someone has the time to do that, and also the way you learn, and if it helps me when I'm studying for something to zone in what I have to learn, as opposed to, because I will get, personally, I will start getting into the book reading and and then I'll lose time. But I just wanted to share that with the group, that the wealth of information of PDF specific pages, like this 1.1 right now, there's like 3 different versions that I gathered from all the presentations. That is a wealth of specific information. I'm following Cherie very well. So that's available as well.
Thank you. Okay, so and I can tell you, if you've got Adobe on your phone, you can tell it to read the PDF to you if you're an Audible person, which is what I do. So I don't have the BARC book, but I can tell you that in the book, that the coaching psychology manual and even the motivational interviewing and some of the other books, they actually have in there, here's the reference, and they bring in other people's information. So I found that I don't feel that I have to go buy this book, but that's my personal opinion. Hopefully I passed the test, and that'd be true. So being present on BARC page 287 to 289, it's being fully present involves the 3 competencies. They say it's active listening, which is fully engaged both verbally and non-verbally, which we just went over. Building presence involves active listening, allowing for silence, holding space, maintaining eye contact, recognize and acknowledge client success, and dancing in the moment. Mindfulness also is existing in the here and now while actively and non-judgmentally listening by adopting a beginner's mind, checking in with yourself, coaching self-management, listening with innocent curiosity and without judgment. In questions to cultivate presence, it says see powerful questions about being present. Don't have that book, so sorry. Reflective practice, self-reflections process of learning to be in the moment, thinking about the practice and being fully present. That's a Dossie book. Probably not pronouncing that right. There we go. 1.1.2, review available client materials. I kind of got into this because I found that there were a lot of questions in previous cohorts. So reviewing available client materials, prepare, review client assessment results and client communications, get present, practice mindfulness, set intention, and connect to proposed period, and get curious, purpose period. That should be a period and not the word period. Get curious, consider initial strengths-based inquiries. So chapter 8 of the client assessment in the CPM, that entire book, but tells you about some different assessments. I was heard in previous cohorts, no, you don't have to know all the different types of assessments that you can ask or get. But what I did find is benefits of the clients completing an assessment, because this is how I feel it's going to be on the test. What could be a benefit of completing an assessment? It stimulates reflection and self-awareness. Assessments can be helpful at the beginning of a coaching relationship because they're not only they not only inform coaches, they also help clients gain self-awareness, insights, and a sense of their priorities for a coaching program. Assessments are efficient because precious coaching time isn't used to gather a lot of data that can feel like an interrogation. Review client materials. Other benefits of having clients complete an assessment include trust and probably should say rapport. An online paper assessment provides a client with a safe space in which they can tell their story. It's honoring personality preferences because clients with a tendency for introversion will tend to be more comfortable communicating in writing, at least initially, than those that are more extroverted. The written word, seeing the information collectively, can be both affirming and a powerful motivator for action if somebody actually sees it in writing. Developing discrepancy and assessment can help a client more clearly see the difference between where they are and where they are not in terms of behaviors and outcomes. So those are 4 advantages of going over and reviewing the client material with them. Assessments. Also, I found that it provides, here's the 5 other things that it says it does. It provides an overall picture of the client's present state of being, including their physical health, lifestyle habits, strengths, life satisfactions, and readiness to make changes. It's a snapshot to better understand and appreciate the client's life context. The coaching questions and approach for a client who has significant health issues such as obesity, hypertension, back injury, or cancer is definitely different than the approach for highly motivated clients. Awareness for situations such as a major loss or recent diagnosis. So for us to be aware of that in the background, it may not be what they want to talk about, but we could be keen to it. So that, be aware of it. An indication of the client's strengths and healthy habits, as well as health risks in areas of challenge. And it's an indication of red flags related to physical health issues, medical care gaps, injury or contradictions to exercise, or mental health issues, depression, or other mental health issues for which a referral may be important or even critical. So here are some cautions for doing an assessment. And they are, there's less room for collaboration and more room for the expert hat. So a lot of people say that this could be a trap for an expert hat if you have them do too many of these. Or maybe they just don't feel comfortable with that. Evaluation rather than empathy. 3, assessments are completed by humans. They're not perfect. And the bottom line is that concern for compassion should always come before the concern for compliance in any coaching relationship, and not just because it feels better. Compassion leads to more behavior change. So have any of you guys set an assessment out to a client and they never fill it out? I know.
Yes.
I have. Yeah.
I have.
So this may be why. Maybe they just feel like that information isn't important at the time, or it has nothing to do with what they want to work with for you. And we should know right here, it's telling us that the compliance is not as important as our compassion. So if it's all that they can do to come to the meetings, to use their time for that, let's use their meeting time for that. Preparation for success, or preparing for success, page 156. This was the prepare, the get present, and the get curious. Yeah. What type of assessments is everyone using? You guys, if you want to reply back to any of the chats, please feel free to do so. Consider initial strengths and based inquiries. So 1.1.3 logistics, and I'm just keeping going because I'm going to go forever if I don't get through it. So the logistics. Coaching agreement clearly defines the time, the duration, the payment, the boundaries, that outside of a sessions and violations, right? So the logistics, we have to make sure that they understand what it is that we're going to do. We're not going to hold their hand the whole time. They're going to be responsible. Where's the location? Is there waiting room? What's it like? You know, if they're going to cancel, if they're going to show up late, please provide notice, things like that. Prepare meeting space, consider diversity, cultural issues, arrangement, and interruptions. Love some of these, like Quizlets that had a, what if I have a Buddha in the background of my, you know, Zoom screen? Is that a violation? And if so, what is that a violation of? Should I be taking my shirt off to show how fit I am if it's a good looking guy and I'm a good looking and I'm a girl with its fit? So there were some really funny questions. So maybe those were actually pretty good, that really made you think of what the answers are. So confirmed. So the summary of your logistics is just confirm the logistics of a coaching relationship prior to the session. Repeat it before each session, not just the first session. Okay. Any questions about logistics? All right. So the 1.2 is the coaching structure for your first session or before. And I'm just going to point out that if you guys do have the coaching psychology manual, that I really believe that it's completely important to go over chapter 11, which goes over all the different, it's really the entire coaching structure in a outline to me. And it has the introduction, it has preparing for a coaching session, this session opening, what you do at the beginning sessions, what you do in the middle sessions, what you do at the end sessions. So that is really important. And from the sample test questions that I've done, if you don't know the order in what you're doing and where you're supposed to be, you're going to get those questions wrong. So these pretty much start, chapter 11 starts about page 155 and it goes through page 165. And there's a quick guideline of the coaching program, which is really short and it really sums it up on page 165. But the first session or before, this is the overview from the National Board of Health and Wellness. And what that states is this overview tells you a lot. And if you really understand the overview, you're going to get questions correct. The coaches aim for the initial session or intake sessions are to describe the coaching process, review information and assessments provided by the client, and determine if the client is an appropriate candidate for coaching. The coach clarifies roles and expectations. Example, the coach will not diagnose or prescribe, nor give unsolicited advice. The client will self-determine his or her vision, goals, and action steps, and the client will be actively engaged in trying new behaviors and plan with the coach. Logistics and responsibilities, client versus coaches, are confirmed in a written coaching agreement. So to me, that tells you a whole lot that you need to know to for the test. So Jennifer, go ahead.
I memorized these and I said they're all pieces of a pie, parts and pieces of a pie. So I did PIECE, pieces of a pie. I always have to have a system, and P is prior, I is initial, E for early, C is for continued, and E is the end. So they're all different parts of the pie. I can put it in the chat, but memorizing it all, I think memorizing it in chunks, and you can just remember like keywords. I can put that in the chat. I also have to have some sort of way to memorize things if it helps somebody else.
That's perfect, because everything you just said is prior and or everything that you just said is perfect for people to realize that those are the 5 different stages. And then we have to know within that piece that you just spelled out, the P, what are the pieces within the P? What are the initials within the P? And essentially it's pretty much defined here. And it is, you know, first we got to determine, or, you know, we review their information, we describe the coaching process, we, any assessment, we go over the assessment, and we determine if the client is an appropriate candidate for coaching. We do have to, in that first session, we have to clarify our role and expectation. We have to, they're doing it all. I love that. Thank you so much. I'm going to go on to the next page. 1.2.1, set the climate stage. So Bart and more, we've got mindfulness, state of being and presence, working with a sense of purpose or meaning, meditating with the client, authenticity. We need, it sets the tone for the entire coaching relationship. So, and I've got my book here, or I've got my little book here. So part of the climate in the stage is establishing rapport. So underneath the stage and the climate is establishing the rapport. We kind of went over the rapport earlier. That's why I went ahead and talked a lot. But rapport and trust are 2 key ingredients for co-creating the coaching relationship. It helps establish trust and rapport. Active listening, the mirroring, reframing, affirming, holding the clients in positive regard, asking for permission and feedback. MIs calls that ask, offer, at. No, I'm sorry, that's the new one. Elicit, provide, elicit. Being humble and sharing information and advice. You know, we only offer that if they want it. Being fully present, engaging with client, listen with full attention, following through on commitments, under promising and over delivering. So if we say we're going to do something, we have to make sure that we do it, and it's better to under promise and over deliver. Listening with full attention, having presence, practicing non-judgment, honestly sharing observations, reminding client of desires and goals, clients to formulate their own answers, expressing empathy and honoring confidentiality. And again, it's not about our story. We don't always have to relate. We can hear what they're saying. We can let them know that we acknowledge it. We don't need to agree or disagree. We just have to let them know that they're being heard. Gauge clients' intuition, gauge clients' intentions for coaching, obtain information why coaching is sought. So the first thing that came to my mind here is, what do we need to do? We need to find out what brings them here. Why is it important? How do you feel? How's it affecting their life? Does this match with their values and beliefs? What is their long-term vision? What are their short-term goals? And are they ready? So we got to figure all that stuff out. And that's how we gauge the client's intentions for coaching. The book specifically states to, this is in page CPM, page 2 and 5. I got that on the bottom down here. Oops. Did I just scroll back through that? Yeah, I'm going the wrong way. Sorry. Look, I'm almost done. All right. Sorry about that. Right there. Perfect. All right. So clarify, discover, clarify, and align with what the client wants to achieve. Encourage client self-discovery. Elicit collaborative and client-generated solutions and strategies. Hold the client responsible and accountable. Coaches are focused on self-care reform. So these are our own things. We have to focus on our own so that we can help them with theirs. These include lifestyle changes, health behaviors, including stress management, mindful practices, finding a role of meaning and higher purpose, and developing new life skills. So we are to help them with their own self-care reform. And the book specifically, the Coaching Psychology Manual, specifically states each of those lifestyle changes, health behaviors that include the stress management, mindful practices. It also says finding a role of meaning and higher purpose was with the health behaviors, and then developing new life skills. 1.2.2, which is still under the yeah, this is determine the individual is a candidate for health and wellness coaching and is an appropriate candidate for you specifically. So we have to distinguish, we need to know what coaching is versus what therapy is, right? So does everybody know the difference between coaching and therapy? Right. Okay, good. And there's a page in the book that goes over what a therapist does and what a coach does. We're in the current moment. A lot of times therapy is dealing with their past. Do we ever have to deal with their past? Sometimes they have to realize what they did in the past and they learn from it, right? So we take that and we can use those to be growth, to be able to move them forward and make sure they're not repeating the same mistakes. The coach helps the client. Coach helps client who are not experiencing serious mental distress. So there is a list of things. Somebody's probably got the page number right up the top of their head that who we need to defer out. Does anybody have that on the that they could read for us? Or tell us the page number? The page for distinguishing coaching and therapy is on page 20 of the CPM book. The liability and scope of practice is what we talk about and go over with each of them. And that is on page 21. And then we defer out if I don't know what page that deferring out is. Anybody have it? Want to type it in the chat? All right. So I don't have it on the tip of my fingers here. But we also have to know that on page 7, that the Thomas Gordon, it says, has outlined 12 ways of being that do not demonstrate a coach approach. These are also called the roadblocks to communications. I've been told that's extremely important to know. And those are: a coach doesn't order, direct, command. We don't provide warning, caution, or threat. We don't warn, caution, or threat. We don't give advice, make suggestions, or provide solutions. We don't persuade using logic, argue, or lecture. We don't tell people what they should do. We don't moralize them, moralization. We don't disagree, judge, criticize, or blame. So when you're looking at some of the test questions, some of the answer could have something. And if you can interpret that, well, that sounds like we're judging, or that sounds like we're blaming, probably don't want to answer that. Or, mark that off as that's not a good one. We don't want to shame, ridicule, or label. We don't want to interpret or analyze. We should not, it says reassuring, sympathizing, or consoling, question or probing, questioning or probing to the point where it sounds really bad, withdrawing distractions, humoring, or changing the subject. So those are the 12 roadblocks to communications. And then I know that there's a lot in here about, and I don't know the exact page, about when we bring somebody.
Sorry, I found my page, but it's in
Good.
Cherie's paid class, so I can't share it.
I do. There's a
It's
list.
good to do a little homework. It's good to do a little homework. It'll stick.
Yes, it's really good to do a little homework. So you all need to know that there is a list, and I'm sure we'll throw it in the chat later on exactly what that list is, on if when to refer somebody out, right? So when we need to stop.
Is the source CPM?
The source of the ones that I just said was coaching psychology manual. That's the Thomas Gordon, and that was on page 7.
Thanks.
Oh, thank you so much, Sarah. Sarah, you're a lifesaver. Page 20 of the CPM book. Yes, I've got them all right there. There's a list of 10. It's right underneath the distinguished coaching and therapy. And so thank you so much. It was right there in front of me, and I've actually got it highlighted, but I don't have the numbers 1 through 10 highlighted. So thank you. All right. So that's very important in determining if an individual is a candidate for health and wellness. A lot of times binge eating disorder, other things, if they, you know, are they seeing a counselor? Are they seeing somebody for it? Have they had a change in appetite, a severe decrease of appetite? They've got no energy, things like that. Okay, so that's 1.22. And I also have refer to mental health provider CPM page 126 to 129. I'm going to go to that real quick. 126 to 129. I don't see that on that page. Maybe I do. Okay, no.
I'd show 126 through 129 is really more related to 1, 2, 3, explaining
Yes.
the coaching process. Yeah.
It is totally.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. And it also has to, I probably copied and pasted from that slide. I just duplicated the slide. I like how it's got the protocol for designing the coaching relationship on set expectations, prepare for the startup, the session opening, and explore the well-being assessment. Okay, so that's on 122. So 123 is 1.2.3 under the competency is explain the coaching process. So explaining the coaching process is I've got all the different references up top here. Collaborative partnership with deep respect for the talent, strengths, and skills that each person brings. Not a one-sided, not a one-size-fit-all approach, personalized learning to meet the present needs of the client. It's a unique partnership, co-created, involves the whole person. Coaches use a variety of theories and processes. Here's a couple of the theories. Those will be dove into later. That's just a list of some. And confidentiality is crucial to trust. So explaining the coaching process, if they don't know how it's going to work, then they're not going to know that you're not going to have good sessions. So that whole process, again, is in the back of the book. It's all through the book, but it's really in the back of the book about conducting coaching sessions. And I thank everybody for their PSAs, regardless of who you had, whether you're in your first session, your second session, your middle session, or your end sessions, there were specific things you had to do. I think all of us had to do that within our PSAs. Is that correct? So if their PSAs were so important that everybody had to do them, you know it's going to be on the test. Perfect. Page 120 has examples of when to refer to slide. That's why 120 was up there. Thank you, Jamie.
I'm
So-
sorry, but what is PSA again? What are we speaking to?
So the PSA is whenever you took your class to be able to register for the test, you had to have a national board certified coach in the session, and you were coaching someone else, and it was your practical skills assessment.
Oh, okay. We call that we did overviews and yeah, and those types of
Okay.
sessions. Okay.
Cool. Yeah.
Yes.
We had different ones. We had PSA, we had buddy coaching or whatever, but they were all going through the core competencies. But yeah. Okay, cool. Does anybody else have a question about explaining the coaching process? Does anybody have some highlights of what the coaching process is for the initial, where we are on the first session or before? So again, when you're taking a sample test, when you're taking the test, you read the scenario, it may say, this is the first session, this is the initial session, this is the second session. And if you're in that, you may be in the first session or before. So knowing what we have to do in that first session, setting goals may not be in there. It's more important to have a vision to make sure that they understand the coaching process, what the client's responsibility is, what the coach's responsibilities are, what the payment process is, that they've already have to have a signed agreement. If any of this sounds strange to you, jump in and start reading or give some feedback to us. Okay, I ran out of time because I just said I would take this on last night before I went to bed. So I'm going to, can you guys still see my screen? Because I'm going over someone else's notes. So I just left off on explaining the coaching process. Now I'm on 1.2.4, which is establishing the coaching agreements. Can you guys see this okay? Or hold on, I can make it a little bigger. And too big. There we go. So essentially, this is guidelines. So 2.4.1 is guidelines and specific parameters of the coaching relationship. The agreement should include roles, logistic fees, scheduling, confidentiality, payments, expectations, responsibility of coaching, of client and coach. We just went over that. I'm so happy that Dr. G spoke up, because you may have a coaching agreement that has a sponsor in it. So the sponsor is typically the client, but it's not always the client, right? So we also have 1.2.4.2 is the client versus the coach responsibility, setting the appropriate expectations. We have to explain the difference between education and coaching. We can educate. It should be less than 25%, I think, something like that. Educators have information, expertise, and wisdoms to share. Coaches enable clients to discover a lot for themselves. On occasion, coaches will provide expert advice or knowledge if asked, and if we can't evoke it from them. Coaches will listen, ask questions, reflect to promote client learning, growth, and movement. Personalized learning system to help clients find their own answers and achieve exceptional results. Agree on key principles of the coaching relationship, page 127 of the coaching manual. More is the coaching manual. Understand type of coaching relationship is 1.2.4.3. There are short laser coaching session versus a long-term coaching relationships versus a telephone, coaching apps, face-to-face, incentive type coaching. So some people are incentivized. If you do these coaching sessions, we're going to give you a $50 increase on your monthly paycheck, right? Because they feel that their people are going to come to work more often, something like that. So 1.2.5 is the review assessments, if any are used in other data. This is chapter 8 of the CPM book, which I think I went over pretty good already. So this is where the assessments stimulate reflection, self-awareness, insights, and priorities, benefits of assessment for the client, trust and rapport, the safe space to tell their story, honoring their personal preferences, the written word, which is motivating and confirming and affirming, and developing the discrepancies where they can see where they are and where they need to be, where they want to go. So that's why I went ahead and dealt through that in that slide really good there. Obviously, the progress depends on expanding the awareness and laying the groundwork for growth, promoting relationship, the benefits of assessments of the coaches. I went over those 5. They can overall snapshot of their health and wellness, a snapshot of them as a person, their awareness of their health situations, their strengths and challenges, and it can identify the red flags. Assessments aren't always accurate. They come to life through reflection, inquiry, and listening. Assessment are tools to uncover motivation or drive what's motivationally driving the client. So types of assessment, these are just examples of types of assessments. I wasn't told that we need to know any of these by heart, and so don't know anything about that. But well-being assessments look at the wellness from a broader perspective, their energy, their life satisfaction, mental and emotional fitness, weight management, physical, blah blah blah. The well-being assessments provide information about their priority, their confidence, and they're ready to change. Explore assessments is read with an open mind. We have to seek out success, notice the client's arousals, so what excites them, not what excites the coach, but the client, and consider the stage of change, question gaps or inconsistencies, and note the concerns about things that we've got to be careful for being able to referring them out. Assessments are helpful guides, unhelpful when they become an agenda. So we got to make sure that the assessment doesn't become the agenda, that we're taking the time outside of the meeting to know that information, to just have it in our back pocket. If it's something they want to talk about, they'll let us know. We don't ask them, they bring their agenda to us. I didn't see anywhere on this slide the negative parts. So I wanted to make sure that why wouldn't you use it, right? We don't want to have the expert hat. We don't want to judge, things like that. Different clients prefer different learning styles, plays a role in change. Use curiosity, open-ended inquiries to empower clients to find their own answers. 1.2.6 is the last one. Anybody else have any questions about the assessments, if used, or any other data resources?
I just have a question. You went into really good details about the structure of the coaching session. I heard you refer to, of course, I don't know what to call it, a manual.
CPM. Yeah.
Is it CPM? So there's two things. There's actually on the website where the National Board has they call it guidebook, I guess that's what they call it.
Yes.
You mentioned that, but then you mentioned something else that actually tells you the structure of the coaching session. That's the one? That's the
Yes.
Psychology?
Yeah, the coaching psychology manual. So we just call it the CPM, coaching psychology manual.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. And Margaret Moore is one of the ones that helped start the National Board Health and Wellness with the exam. So I think from all that, that's why a lot of this comes from her book, and why that's very much highlighted to read. Yeah. So, again, it does go over within the book, time frames. So 1.2.6, ensure appropriate time management of this in all sessions. So, the 1.2.6 is just making sure that you keep time. So if you're coaching and you're like, okay, our coaching sessions are 30 minutes, you need to make sure that you wrap it up in 30 minutes. If you've got I'm sorry, we can get to this. So next time we'll pick up if that's where, if we could pick up, I'm sorry, we're out of time. You got to be able to do that. So with your session opening, that needs to be, if it's a 30-minute session, about 2 to 3 minutes, about 5 to 7 minutes on a weekly goal. A 3-month goal review is about 2 to 3 minutes. If they have most of them do have a 3-month goal review, and it doesn't have to be every time. The generative moments is about 40% or 10 to 12 minutes. That's when they're telling their story. That's when they're really getting into why they're doing something, why they're not, and really getting to know the meat of what's going on. Their goal setting is about 20%, 5 to 7 minutes. A lot of times it can be at the end. It can be more in the middle because they may be working out the details. And then the closing, to close this session is going to take about 2 to 3 minutes or 6% of the time. So summary, the first session sets the tone for the entire coaching relationship, essential to build trust and rapport, understand clients' intentions for coaching, determining if they are a candidate for coaching, coach versus therapy, explain the coaching process, that it's not one size fits all, but an individualized approach, define the coach and client responsibilities, co-create coaching agreement, the role, logistics, fees, schedule, responsibilities, expectations, session lengths, review assessments to get a snapshot of the client's strengths and challenges, health and wellness, and preferred learning style. When reviewing assessments, stay in the moment, use open-ended inquiries, curiosity to help empower the clients to find their own answers, maintain proper time management during each session, with the majority of the time spent on generative moments and goals. So, any questions on 1.1 or 1.2? Are we even have time for 1.3 and 1.4 and 1.5 tonight? Sorry. Who's next?
Let me see.
Well, Sherry, if you have maybe the material here, we just haven't gotten to it. Maybe we could access the slides.
Yes, absolutely. I'm going to put those. Thank you for saying that, because it was in the chat earlier. I'm going to dump my slides, and
Everything we talk about, you can print out later.
Yes, yes. So I'm gonna dump those and put them out there on the Facebook on the Guide 11. We're Guide 11, and they'll also be in the Google Drive that I shared. So they'll be in both locations, so you guys can get everything at once. And I took from multiple sources, and then I dug a little deep because whenever this past week I took probably about 4 hours to go through a lot of practice tests. And whenever I went through this, I'm like, this is exactly what I needed. It helped me to get the questions right. So.
Thank you so very much, Sherry.
Way too much.
You
I'm
have
so
to
sorry.
realize
I find it
She-
helpful to
she-
read the books, then highlight the books, and then go back and look at the competencies and then kind of look at them. And then if you can have some sort of an audible input, have a study buddy and go through stuff together, make flashcards, Quizlets. Because you remember something, Sherry remembered something I said, and she goes, "Oh, I know," on that one. So those things, there's any different venues and ways that you can utilize the material and study it. It just makes it cemented into your brain.
Yeah.
and read the chat. So much gratitude for
Thank you.
you
Oh my
today.
God.
And because we had a cancellation, sure, like, when did we talk last night? You put this together like in less
Today.
than, you're right.
Since 2 o'clock, probably 3 o'clock today.
So
I had
it's pretty
but-
amazing. Yeah. So much gratitude to you. Thank you so much. And also the many other things you have done for this group. Yes.
Whoop, whoop.
Thank you.
Mm,
And
yeah.
thank you so much, Claire, for the grounding. It was beautiful. And also thank you so much to everybody that has signed up on the outline and the schedule. And am I hearing you right, Sherry? Did you think you were going to do 1.3 and 1.4 too?
No,
Because I thought you were just going to do 1.1 and 1.2, right?
yeah, and I'm done with that.
Oh,
Was
good.
somebody
Okay,
supposed
yeah.
to do
That's a
1.3 and
different
4
next week.
tonight? Okay, good.
No.
Whew. Okay. I'm gonna
No,
stop the
no.
recording now, if that's okay, unless anybody has a question that
Yeah.
they want recorded.